Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Slightly Better. I'm Kelly, and I just want to start by saying how proud I am of myself for really committing to this podcast and doing it ugly, doing it imperfectly. I am out here in my wet backyard at 5:21 in the morning, my hair in a sweaty bun from last night, to bring this topic to you. But today I'm talking about something simple that could honestly be extremely life-changing, and that is the power of changing your mind. Simply changing your mind. I think a lot of us grew up or maybe are still in a time where changing your mind is seen as a sign of inconsistency or even flakiness. But I want to offer you the opposite view of that, which is changing your mind when it's right is a sign of alignment and one of the most powerful signs of growth or self-development. So let's start with why this is hard. There's a lot of resistance to changing our mind sometimes, right? Like I said, our society values consistency, don't quit, don't give up, stick it out, follow through. I think those are incredible things. And I think it's important to be able to be consistent and to follow through and to stick things out when it matters and when it's right and when it's beneficial to you. But the issue that I see or that I feel is that when we start to feel this resistance, right, like something isn't right, a lot of times we suppress that and we double down on what we're doing that isn't right. We want to make it right. We want to validate the choices that we've made. Or we keep going because we don't want to look unstable. We don't want to look like maybe we never even knew what we were doing in the first place. We don't want to look, like I said, flaky or inconsistent. Every decision that you've made was based on who you were at the time that you made the decision. And then that decision was made with the information, the experience, the self-awareness that you had at that time. And I'm sure that decision, whatever it was, made sense at the time that you made it. And maybe it just doesn't anymore because maybe now you have more information. Maybe you have more freedom. Maybe you trust yourself a little bit more. Maybe you know yourself a little bit better. I fully understand this feeling, and I'll tell you a story. When I was a kid, up until, through my 20s, most of my 20s, I prided myself on being the person who doesn't quit. Like I would join things, do things, stick it out way too long, and never quit. That was my thing. I'm the girl who doesn't quit. So one example of that is when I was a freshman in high school, I went to LaGuardia for a music performance, and I went to see my friend at some sort of pep rally, I don't know, at an all-boys Catholic high school. She obviously didn't go there, but they did let some girls from other schools try out and join the band. It was a competitive marching band, competed all around like the tri-state area. And she told me there was an open spot. Somebody had just left or been kicked out. I don't know. And she was like, you should try to get in because we're going to Disney World. I had never been to Disney World, so I was like, hell yeah, let's go. So I auditioned and I got in and started taking the place of this kid. And all because I wanted to go to Disney World, right? I could have stopped there. No. For the next 3.5 years, I was a member of this competitive marching band at an all-boys Catholic high school. Now the problem is that they had rehearsals every single weekday after school, none of which I could attend. I got out of school at the same time as everyone else, only my school was 2 hours away. So somehow they excused me from most of these rehearsals unless there was like one weird day, maybe I got out early where I could make it. We also had rehearsals every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then competitions on Sundays, so we'd meet at the school early in the morning, get on the bus, go, whatever, all day. There was no free time at that point. I also had a job. So I did that and really dreaded every moment of it. We also had a band camp in the summer, like the last week or two, we had to be there every single day from 8 to 5 in the heat, out on the field. It was wild. The band director, may he rest in peace, he was a little cuckoo. Like he treated this band like a military organization. There was really no room for error. He would yell at us. Like it was very intense. The competitive marching band scene is intense, just so you know. So by the time it was my senior year, my mom was like, listen, like, you don't have to do this. Like it's not fun. It's not even your school. It's stressing you out. It's taking up all your time. Like you don't even get to sleep. Like just quit. Like it's not adding anything. And I was like, no, I can't quit. Like I do not quit. Like I'm not quitting anything. And so I stuck it out, and finally, when it was over, I think I tossed my uniform in a dumpster. I was supposed to return it. I don't know. I was so relieved to be done. I could have easily just left. It literally did nothing for me. It didn't help me get into college. I got to go to Disney and I got to go to Universal. But studying music from the age of basically 9, when I joined my first little, you get into band in elementary school, and I stuck it out. Middle school, I was pretty good. I got into LaGuardia High School, even college. I majored in music education for a little while, knowing full well that I did not feel passionate about this in any way anymore. I wasn't even that good anymore because I stopped kind of trying, and I absolutely did not want to teach in a school. So I left, and that was a tough decision, but not really, because like it was just way too expensive anyway. But when something is your thing and it's part of who you are, and there are expectations on you, even if you put them on you yourself because people have, highlighted your talent and what you're capable of, it's really, really hard to quit, and it's hard to leave that behind, and it's a feeling of being like a little bit lost and unsure if you don't even know what you're going to do next. So for me, studying music was like my thing, right? And a lot of people in my life would highlight like my talent, my ability, my potential. And so I felt really locked into that box, even though I didn't even ever feel extremely aligned with it. It was fun and I liked it, but I never felt as much of a part of me as other people seem to think it was. So this brings me to the next part of this, which is identity. And it's like, if we change our mind, or if we give up the thing that's been our thing, it's like, who even am I now? Who even am I to myself, to the people around me, to the people who know me? Like, what happens now? And we attach ourselves to beliefs as if they're character traits, right? Like I did. I don't quit. I'm the girl who doesn't quit. I'm the one who follows through. I'm the responsible one. These are all personally identities that I place on myself. And a big one that I've talked about before, which is I don't want kids. I'm never having kids, right? That obviously now I'm absolutely obsessed with being a mom. Like, things change. Sometimes things change on their own because the universe is showing you what you need and what's meant for you. But sometimes it pushes us along and we ignore it because, like I said, we're afraid of looking a certain way or giving up an identity that we are so comfortable with, even though it might feel a bit misaligned. And it's sometimes impossible to realize that these identities or decisions are based on one version of us, who we were at one point in time, based on our experiences, based on our curiosities at the time, what we thought was expected of us, what we thought looked cool, who we thought we wanted to be at that time. And when people highlight your skills, your abilities, it feels really good, right? So why wouldn't we attach ourselves to that? Why wouldn't we hang on to that, grab onto it, and try to run with it? And this brings me to the myth of the static self. We are not meant to stay the same. You are not meant to stay the same. I am not meant to stay the same. And, as we get older, we start to realize that we have more layers that maybe we've been able to explore in the past, maybe more layers than we've ever even known were there in the past that we could explore. We meet new people, we develop new friendships, new interests, new curiosities. Sometimes exploring these things and running with these things can feel like we're abandoning ourselves and who we've always been. Doing the same things you've always done with the same mentality you've always had, all in the name of consistency, is a major form of self-abandonment. And sometimes the hardest shift to make, or the hardest change to make, comes when nothing major has even happened. You just start to feel like it's not right anymore. You start to simply feel misaligned, even if you're not sure of the word for it. So that could be a job, it could be a hobby, it could be a relationship. I will tell you one more personal story about this. I was in a relationship for almost 6 years. We lived together, great relationship, no problems, no craziness, no dramas, super chill, great person. And I just started to feel like it wasn't right anymore. I just started to feel a little bit bored. I started to feel misaligned in the relationship. I couldn't really see the future of it. I didn't see myself in the future of this relationship. And so I started thinking about leaving it, and I started freaking out because I'm like, how am I going to do this? Nothing has gone wrong. I'm going to have to move out, get a new place, tell everyone in my life. Our lives were so integrated at the time, and nothing bad had happened, so nobody would really understand. And so I had gone on vacation, I came back, and that night I ended it. And it was like the chillest breakup of all time. Like, it kind of pissed me off a little bit that there weren't more tears, more drama. And then awkwardly had to live together for a couple months while I found a place. And yeah, everyone in my life was shocked. But after a minute, they were like, okay, you good? I'm good, and it wasn't that big of a deal. It's honestly, nothing in my life would have turned out the way it has now had I not made that decision, obviously. And it was really hard because, like I said, nothing had gone wrong. It was unexpected. It was just internally in my gut, I started to feel off about it. And, that's the thing when you start to listen to those feelings, those gut feelings, your intuition, when you really start to trust it. And the only way to trust it is to follow it, even though it's extremely scary. Once you start to hear those messages and to feel it, you can't ignore it, because you know that on the other side of those hard decisions is what's actually meant for you, or at least a path that is going to lead you to what is meant for you. And so, yeah, when I was a kid, I was always told like how smart I was, how talented I was, all these things, right? My family called me a weirdo, they called me a freak. All these endearing terms just meant that I was a bit different. And even things like being the clumsy one, and like all these things that even my older siblings and my mom like still thought of me as, like in my 30s, it was weird to me to still have all that placed on me. And I didn't realize how much I was actually still internalizing it until one day, and I think I've told this story elsewhere before, but one day I was in a yoga class with one of my favorite instructors at my favorite studio, and she was talking during the flow about detaching. And I've always been kind of a minimal type of gal. Like, I don't like to have a lot of material things around me. It doesn't like bring me joy in any sort of way. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, she's talking about detaching from like our material possessions, whatever. Been there, done that. But she wasn't. She was talking about detaching from identities, from beliefs, from even values that we don't align with anymore, that we maybe didn't choose, right? Like things our parents, our teachers have told us about ourselves. Detaching from that and how powerful that could be. And I don't remember exactly how she worded it, but she made me see and realize so clearly that it was just a decision. It was just making a decision to not be that person. You don't have to tell anyone about it. You just get to free your mind of it and move on as actually the person you actually want to be. And so I made a decision in that class, in that moment, in child's pose, to detach from all the words and all the identities and all the beliefs I had about myself that didn't really belong to me, that I had been hanging on to for a long time, and that were actually stopping me from doing what was right for me, stopping me from trusting my intuition entirely. And I made it my mission to constantly detach from anything that didn't feel right, regardless of anyone else's discomfort or even my own discomfort, my own fear. And I've never looked back. And I tell people this all the time, like, to say I've always been this way, I've always done things this way, is one of the most limiting things you can think, and the most limiting thing you can say to yourself, because it literally stops you from doing anything differently. Even though inside your gut is screaming at you to do something differently, to change your mind, you can't, because you have attached yourself to the expression, I've always done it this way, I've always been this way. What if you just do it differently? It's easier said than done, but it is simple. It's a decision, and it's not one decision, it's a decision that you make consistently every single day when it comes time to doing the thing that you want to do or being the person you want to be. Over and over and over again, you make that decision, because that's how you align yourself, and that's how you start to trust yourself, and that's how you start to understand and know yourself and trust your intuition. So living in alignment is not about doing the right thing. It's about not fighting yourself. It's about not having internal resistance. It's about doing what is best for you at the time. And there are some really obvious and physical manifestations of misalignment when you're showing up to a job that just you fucking hate, or you're just living in a way that is not right for you, and you feel resentful, you can feel irritable, you could feel really tired, you can obviously feel really anxious, and you just have a feeling in your gut that something's off. And maybe you can't explain it, maybe you don't even know why it's there, but if you can sit with it for a little while, you can probably start to uncover the changes that you probably need to make in order to get rid of that gut feeling of unease. And what I really want you to understand is, energetically, when you say no to something, or when you leave something behind that isn't aligned with you and what you want and who you are and what you value, energetically, you're now creating space for the next thing that is right for you to find its way to you. Okay? Because when you get rid of the thing that's not right for you, you're now clearing an energetic blockage, okay? And I'm not trying to sound like woo-woo or crazy, but energy is real. You really can't argue with it. And this has happened to me in my life so many times, more times than I can even tell you. Every time I say no to something, knowing it's not right, I'll say out loud, I know I'm saying no to something that seems good, but I know something better is about to happen. And it always does. I'm telling you. When you let yourself pivot or change your mind, you create space, okay? You create space. Space is necessary energetically for the next right thing to find its way to you, or for you to have the clarity to figure out your next move. And I'll tell you one more story. So a couple years ago, maybe 2022, I really was feeling a little burnt out by personal training in person. I wanted to take a break. I didn't have that many clients and I was just kind of over it. But the clients I did have, they had been with me for a long time, like at least 4 or 5 years. And I was getting ready to tell them that I'd be taking a break. And I was a little nervous, but I really, there was no getting around it. I had been feeling this way a long time. It was time. They understood. I moved on, took my little break, still did my online training. And then I had gotten a message from somebody like a few months later offering me an opportunity to take on some one-on-one clients. And I really wasn't looking, but I was like, let's meet, let's talk about it. We talked about it. Immediately the vibe was off. But I was like, let me just have this one more conversation, right? And just to keep this brief, the pay split that he thought was appropriate was absolutely laughable. And I told him, quite honestly, with my experience, my years of experience, my expertise, my specific skills, that I wouldn't work for even 3 times that amount. I put it more politely, but he gave me the line about like it could grow. And obviously I said, thanks, but no thanks. And took that as the sign that it just wasn't the time yet. Made the decision that I wouldn't go back to training unless it was a hell yes. So for me, it was either a hell yes or a no. And it was a big fat no. And so that cleared room for the next opportunity to come, which was Rare Breed, where I'm at now, which was an absolutely immediate hell yes. So if I had taken that other position, I wouldn't have even had the wherewithal that Rare Breed was looking. I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have probably went for it because I would have been settled into my schedule. It wouldn't have made its way to me. It just wouldn't have. So if you're in the middle of this and you're feeling that nudge, like something needs to change, what do I do? I'm kind of lost. I have a few things that you can do. The first is I really want you to check in with yourself often. And depending on what it is that you're feeling a little unsure about, your job, your relationship, where you live, ask yourself, like, is this still true for me right now? In my current life, in this current season, is this true for me? What I believe, what I know, what I'm doing, is this working for me right now? You don't have to wait for permission. You can just do this. I want you to understand that you don't need a big dramatic reason to change your mind or to leave a situation. Simply feeling off, that's a real thing. It's misalignment, it's gut feeling, it's intuition. So if you're just feeling off, if you're just not feeling aligned, that's reason enough. The next thing is you don't have to hide behind changing your mind. You don't have to have it be like a secret thing. In fact, I think it's cool to let people see you changing your mind because it models growth, it normalizes complexity, and it gives other people permission to question their own situations, their own choices too. And this is something I personally love to do vocally in front of my daughter because I just don't want her to have the same issues I did. And I find myself saying things to her about how smart she is, how talented she is. It's hard not to, but I also try to let her know, like, even if you never want to go to ballet again or you never draw another picture, like, you're still amazing, you're still brilliant and talented and smart. Like, it's not the thing, it's who you are. It's not the doing, it's the being. The last thing I want you to know is that you get to just write your own story. You get to rewrite it however many times you want, whenever you need to. Because you're a multi-layered human, right? None of us, as much as we have been trained to think this is true, none of us are here for one thing and one thing only. None of us are going to have one interest and one interest only for our entire lives. It doesn't make you confused. It doesn't make you flaky. It doesn't make you inconsistent or unreliable. If you're paying attention to those nudges, those gut feelings, and you're pivoting from there and you're making aligned choices, you're paying attention, you're evolving. And that is true strength. That is a really strong thing to do. And so I'll leave you with this. You're not here to live society or anyone else's version of what consistency looks like. It's your life, and it's meant to be lived honestly, with presence, awake to your own wants and needs, awake to your own life. And that means really having the courage to say things to yourself like, this just isn't true for me anymore. Okay? And that's wisdom, that's strength, it's growth, it's freedom. There's a Walt Whitman quote that I read, and it really fits this episode topic, and I want to share it with you. He said, "Do I contradict myself? Very well. Then I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes." And that's what I want to leave you with, because you are large, you contain multitudes, and it's always okay to change your mind when it's the right thing to do. If it brings you peace, if it brings you alignment, if it makes you feel good, if it's an execution of the growth that you've experienced as a person, it's the right thing to do. So I'm going to ask you to ask yourself, where are you staying in an identity that no longer fits you, it no longer serves you, it no longer feels aligned to you? Where are you staying in something because you're afraid to change your mind, you're afraid of what your life may look like, you're afraid of what people may think? But what could shift and what could change if you were able to let it go? How would you feel once you're on the other side of that? How would you feel once you've made the decision that your gut is urging you to make? Okay? And I want you to know that it's brave to do this, and bravery is not the absence of fear. It's doing the thing with shaky hands. It's doing it with fear. It's doing it scared. That's bravery, that's courage, that's strength. So it's okay to change your mind. I encourage you to change your mind. I encourage you to follow your intuition and learn to listen to it and learn to trust it. So if this struck you, if you've been quietly questioning something in your life, if this meant anything to you, I really want you to let me know. Leave me a comment, leave me a review, send me a message, share it with a friend, and I'll see you in the next one.